Now, on the recruiting side, as far as guys that are actually coming in, positions of need here for the Buckeyes still in this 9th ranked class of 2026. You need another defensive end to join Kari Wilder. That's a huge goal. On the interior, you've got Damari Simeon, Jameer Perez out of Cleveland, and Cam Brickle out of Pennsylvania, then California, then Pennsylvania, now Florida at IMG. Not doing so hot at IMG. The 3-star Cam Brickle, doesn't appear that transfer was the best idea for him. That his 4th transfer in high school. Obviously, IMG, ton of deep talent, but he's a senior and he's not starting, and that's not a great sign. 8 tackles on the year, though he did have a tackle in his most recent game. I think he got shut out on the stats the game before, and that's just not good, man. That's not good. With Brian Kelly's firing, longtime target Deuce Geralds, who had committed to LSU, potentially the thought was maybe the Buckeyes kick the tires on Deuce again, but Deuce won a lot of money. And if he goes elsewhere, he says he's not. He says he's committed to LSU, got nothing to do with Brian Kelly. And based on the stories that have come out from Brian Kelly, kind of makes you believe like, yeah, he probably didn't talk to these recruits much either, because he's got, I think his center from 23 and 24 came out and said, I was the starting center for 2 years. The only thing this guy ever said to me was like, hey, how you doing? Which is just amazing when you think about Ryan Day's relationship with his players. Like, it just blows my mind. But I'm sure the Buckeyes will kick the tires on Deuce anyway, but he got paid a mint. And if it wasn't them, it was going to be Michigan paying him a ton of money. Anyway, another one that they should definitely kick the tires on and have had communication with is a cornerback that they were after pretty hard, a top 100 kid, Hayvon Finney, like a 6'4" corner out of California. Dude's a stud, and we'll see if they can get something rolling with that. I don't think it'll end up being Buckeyes, but there are some corners that are coming in to visit, 2026 guys, and we'll talk about them in a second. But let's talk defensive end. So Dre Quinn has been the only prospect on the board since he decommitted from Clemson. And Dre Quinn is a dude. He's a dude. He's ranked just outside the top 300, but that's a poor ranking, man. This kid's got it all. Tall, long, muscular. He's fast. And Texas was his second choice when he committed to Clemson. So now they're back in on him. Tennessee's in on him big time, and Ohio State. So those 3 going after Dre. And not close enough to make a prediction here. It started off with, all right, everybody's thinking Texas is the big time leader here, but he seems to really like Ohio State, and he'll be back. The only other option that people have been talking about is consistently bringing up the Luke Waffle flip, potential, and that's just absurd. By the way, a lot of people in the industry were talking about at this point in the cycle, we'd be seeing a ton of chaos from funny money and bad deals being thrown around, fake deals. Well, we're less than 2 months away here. We've not seen any of these popping yet. The only thing we've seen is guys coming open from the chaotic coaching carousel. And that's great. And the thing is that will continue as we see, other coaches leave their job to make way. And as they get hired up, we're going to see a lot of residual. And then those players become available 5 days after the new coach gets hired. That's the new rule. So they can't leave immediately after a coach leaves. They got to wait 5 days till the new coach gets hired to give that coach an opportunity to retain them on staff. But the Buckeyes have offered another defensive. Look, he's technically a defensive end prospect, but he's not a defensive end. He's going to be another interior guy, which is why I'm not really sure why they're going after him. But Jimmy Frisco Alasuliafo, out of Katy, Texas, he is a 3-star, but right on the borderline, almost a 4-star, out of Katy, Texas, who's committed to North Carolina. Now, he made the Polynesian Bowl, which is a nice honor. Obviously, it would be nice to get Bill Belichick back after he flipped Jacob Weatherspoon. I would like that. But then I remember we're Ohio State, and flipping someone from North Carolina is not anything that should get me jazzed ever. Production, pretty nice. As a junior, 70 tackles, 15 TFLs, 8 sacks. That's great for big-time high school football in Katy, Texas. And Buckeyes have offered him. Jimmy will be in town. Outside of North Carolina, other big offers he had, Oklahoma, Auburn. Despite the high production and looking like a grown man, the athletic traits are not hot. I mean, they're not. He is absolutely, 3-star athletic traits, which that's why I'm certain that this guy ends up as an inside player. The feet just are not quick enough to play defensive end at Ohio State level. It's just not. And, sometimes you got situations where an Ohio State coach will offer like a 3-star kid, and you look at the kid and it's like, oh, well, this is just a misevaluation. Like, this is awesome. They're going to get a great deal on this guy. And Isaiah West, for instance, is what I said the entire cycle last year. Like, this guy is an absolute dude. And I don't have any idea how he's the number 750th ranked player in the country, but it's wrong. It's just wrong. And sometimes you can just see it, but this guy, not that guy. This is more like we've missed, drop down the ladder, miss, drop down the ladder, miss, drop down the ladder. Nonetheless, they need a body. So if Jimmy Frisco wants to hop on board, there's room, but where they really need bodies is at corner. Need some big time assistance at corner. If Jermaine Matthews leaves, goes to the draft, IGB is gone. Next year, what do we got? Hey, man, I love Devin Sanchez and Aaron Scott. That sounds sweet. Bryce West at nickel. That's great. Jordan Woods, who came in with Devin Sanchez out of Georgia, a kid that was committed to Cincinnati, a Cincinnati flip. And for a reason, he is a multi-year project. He's huge. Multi-year project. If ever he plays corner at this level, to be honest. Then you got stud freshman Jordan Thomas in this class. Unique corners, man. And it was imperative to get some, multiple corners this year, preferably 3. There's 1, and the clock's running out. Now, courtesy of the disaster programs in the state of Florida, there are options now all of a sudden, as Billy Napier has blessed us with CJ Bronaugh. This is a top 100 player out of Florida, Windermere, Florida. That's the Tiger Woods neighborhood. This is a privileged little guy, big guy, 6'2" corner, 175, long, tall, monster traits, man. But speed, man, 10.3 100 meter, 20.87 200 meter. That's fast. Alpha Dog MVP at the Under Armour Orlando camp, which is a big time camp. Played safety and corner in high school against not very good Florida competition. We'll see, man. He's got a ways to go developmental wise, but traits monster. Now, the issue is Michigan's after him. His brother goes to Eastern Michigan, which he seems to like the Buckeyes, and he'll be in town on Saturday. Then you've got Danny Odom. You guys remember Danny, committed to Nebraska. Buckeyes were after him. Danny was supposed to make it in, but he went to the Nebraska game last week, and it doesn't sound like he's going to come in this week. Seems like they were able to get him to shut it down. We'll see. And then we've got Jay Timmons. Now, Jay Timmons committed to Florida State, and we know no matter what that AD said, like Mike Norvell is getting fired at the end of the year. And clearly these recruits know that. They've got to, right? By the way, shout out Corbin Fordham, who flipped to Florida State from Ohio State only a week later to have Norvell lose his third game. And stories come out that the players are making fun of him in the locker room after losing to Stanford, and he's probably getting fired. That was a boneheaded move, man. Big time. But Jay Timmons is a Florida State legacy like Corbin Fordham, and he's out of Pittsburgh. Kid out of Pittsburgh. He is Rivals number 2 cornerback in the entire class. Composite 164 over at 247. So opinions vary, but let's cut it in the middle. He's a top 100 player. That's great. 5'11", so he doesn't got the size CJ Bronaugh has. 185, not quite as fast as CJ, but a little more polished on the football field already. And he will be in town as well. Now, between Timmons and CJ Bronaugh, I think the Buckeyes end up getting one of these two. And whether they have to, stretch the rules, whatever they need to do to get one, I think they're going to get one because it's kind of imperative at this point. That's great. When I say stretch the rules, I'm talking like, they've been following rules that nobody else has been following that aren't, officially, the rules aren't even officially out, which Ross Bjork just reiterated again last week in an interview that we'll go over on our next show. There are no rules. Ohio State's following a lot of them, but technically they're not even published yet. And the ones that enforce the rules are understaffed with 4 full-time employees and are not enforcing those rules that don't exist, that haven't been published. And there we are. Now, that's it for the 2026 guys, but there are a ton of studs in 2027, including 4 offensive linemen from the state of Ohio who have all been offered by Ohio State. That is a very high number at this point in the cycle. You would expect that a couple more pop later on. So we'll probably end up looking at like 7 total dudes from Ohio that end up with Buckeye offers on the offensive line. And that is like, man, we're set. Like, that is beautiful. Kellen Weimer out of Liberty, Mason Wilt out of St. Clairsville, Davis Seaman just got offered out of Bishop Watterson, and Kellel Johnson, the stud out of Moeller. He's going to be potentially a 5-star tackle out of Cincinnati Moeller. All those dudes, the whole crew will be in town together, and that's great. They all seem very high on Ohio State. So Tyler Bowen has got a ready-made class, but not satisfied with that. He's going to make it a 5-pack as he's invited in and has coming to the game the number 1 overall player in the class, offensive tackle Kennedy Brown out of Houston. And the rich get richer, baby. Love it. Last year, James Laurinaitis went for, not last year, this class, James Laurinaitis, 2 Ohio linebackers in Sincere Johnson and CJ Sana. The year prior, you had an Ohio linebacker in Eli Lee, but then he went out of state, got some big dogs in Riley Pettijohn out of Texas, TJ Alford out of Florida. This upcoming class in 2027, going to be a very national class. And we talked about Jason Witten's son, Cooper Witten, who is the number 1 linebacker in the class. He won't be in town, but he loves Ohio State. He was here in the summer, and there's a real shot that the Buckeyes have at him, particularly with the respect that Jason Witten has for Ohio State and James Laurinaitis, and Bobby's good friends with Bobby Carpenter. And it seems like there's a real possibility there. And what we know, obviously, about Cooper Witten, it's probably not going to be some big NIL play. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be like, what's the best fit for Cooper? And I feel comfortable with that right now. Then Caden Henderson, the number 2 linebacker in the country out of Florida, who just speaks incredibly high of James. He will also be in town, along with Roman Egbukwe, who's the number 5, and he might be the best overall. He's huge, 6'3", 220, out of Mount Carmel in Illinois, and he's awesome. And maybe my favorite one, Quentin Cipher, who's out of North Carolina. He's the number 8 linebacker in the country. This is one of those dudes who you look at a picture of his face, and if I showed you his film, then showed you his face, you'd say there's no way that athlete came out of that face. It did. It did. Quentin Cipher, remember the name. He's a dog. But all those linebackers will be in town. Like, James Laurinaitis has half the top 10 coming in, which is beautiful. He's going to land some dogs. And the turnaround in the linebacker room under James Laurinaitis has been just ridiculous. Heartline, of course, has some studs coming in as well. And Khalil Taylor, who is a top 10 wide receiver, was committed to Penn State, obviously decommitted. And Keyshawn Bowman visits again. He was in town for Texas. This is the number 5 wide receiver in the country. Total stud out of Tennessee. Obviously, Tennessee's after him, but Oregon, the biggest threat for him outside of Ohio State. And then you got Blake Wong. Probably not going to end up a Buckeye, but if he did, I would love it. This is an awesome story. So Blake Wong, undersized kid, comes to Ohio State camp over the summer, and he's unranked. Nobody knows who he is. Earns himself an Ohio State offer from Brian Hartline. And because of that offer, he's now a top 300 kid out of California, but just by one service, because nobody else knows who he is. So that's a pretty cool story. And at tight end, our dude Jackson Dollar. This is Rome, who is a Juckeye, one of my guys over at Juck on Bucks. This is his nephew, and he's out of North Carolina. This kid, Rome was telling me about him when he was a no-name kid. Just my nephew's a tight end. I think he might get recruited. Okay, that's awesome, buddy. Yeah. Kid gets a Florida State offer. Like, what, are you kidding me? Hey, Rome really knows what he's talking about. This dude's now the number 5 tight end in the country. And that's our guy. So we're really rooting for Jackson Dollar. he will be in. He actually got his offer from James Laurinaitis via Keenan Bailey. Wrong way. From Keenan Bailey via James Laurinaitis. James was down in North Carolina recruiting Quentin Cypher, and he stopped by to give Jackson Dollar his offer. But this is a sweet tight end now. We're talking a athletic freak. And, not the biggest, stockiest yet, but he's got the frame that he can grow. And he's a supreme athlete. Like I said, I mean, he's a top 100 player in the country. And this will be Keenan's first time meeting him face to face. Now, Rome tells me this kid's got the kind of family that Ohio State's going to fall in love with. And he's that kind of kid. And if that's true, he's not right at the top of Ohio State's priority board at tight end right now. I think that might change if that's true. The best cornerback in the country, John Meredith out of Texas, will be in town. And I think the best safety in the country, though he's technically, I think, the number 5 safety, Jaquan Snell out of Waxahachie, Texas, will be in town. Waxahachie, of course, the Buckeyes have a relationship with Waxahachie. They pulled Calvin Simpson Hunt out of Waxahachie a little while back. So that is our recruiting news for the day.